Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Aurora, and welcome to Twin Flame Journey, a space where we explore the deeper meaning behind soul connections, divine timing, and the path that leads two hearts back to union. If you've been feeling the signs, you're in the right place.
You stopped texting first, and suddenly the relationship became quiet enough for you to hear yourself again. Not the fantasy, not the hope, not the version of him you kept trying to protect in your head. Just yourself. And honestly, that silence felt unbearable at first. Because when you spend months, sometimes years, emotionally waiting for someone who keeps almost choosing you, your body starts living in anticipation. You wake up checking your phone before your eyes fully adjust. You hear a notification that isn't even there. You rehearse conversations while washing dishes. You tell yourself you're moving on while secretly hoping they notice your distance. And the worst part is, sometimes he did care, just not consistently enough to make you feel safe. That's the part nobody explains properly, because it would almost be easier if he were cruel. If he never came back. If he never looked at you like that. If he never held your face like he meant it for those 5 quiet seconds before disappearing emotionally again. But he did. And now you're left trying to heal from something that technically never fully happened, while your nervous system reacts like it survived a breakup, a death, and an addiction at the same time. This video isn't about becoming high vibrational. Honestly, I don't even know what that means half the time anymore. This is about the moment a woman gets tired of abandoning herself while waiting to be chosen. And the terrifying part is, once she truly stops waiting, everything starts changing. I don't think people talk honestly enough about waiting. Not romantic waiting in movies. Not the poetic kind. I mean the embarrassing kind. The kind where your entire emotional state quietly starts organizing itself around another person's attention, and you don't even notice it happening at first. It happens slowly. You still function. You still go to work. You still answer texts. You still laugh with friends. But underneath everything, there's this low electrical hum in your body all the time. Like anticipation never fully shuts off. You wake up and check your phone before your brain is even awake enough to form a thought. Just muscle memory. Eyes have open, heart already bracing itself before consciousness catches up. Nothing. Then you tell yourself it doesn't matter. You put the phone down dramatically sometimes too, like you're proving something to yourself. See, I'm fine. Then 5 minutes later you check again without even realizing it. And honestly, I think that's the part that scared me the most afterward. Not that I loved him, that I started disappearing inside the waiting. I remember one night specifically. It was raining lightly outside, and I was standing in my kitchen reheating pasta I wasn't even hungry for. The microwave light was the brightest thing in the apartment. Everything else felt dim and strangely suspended. I kept checking the time. 9:14, 9:23, 9:41. Because earlier that afternoon he'd said, "I'll call you later." That sentence alone used to carry me emotionally for hours. Which is insane when I say it out loud now. Because later is not intimacy. Later is not commitment. It's barely even a plan. But when someone becomes emotionally inconsistent, tiny things start feeling enormous. One good conversation could calm your nervous system for 3 days. One cold reply could ruin your entire evening. And the worst part is how much you hide it from other people. Because you know how it sounds. You know your friends are getting tired of hearing, "No, it's complicated." "No, he's just overwhelmed." "No, he's been under pressure lately." Meanwhile, you're sitting on the edge of your bed at midnight rereading a 2-line message like it contains hidden meaning. "Miss you too." Why did he say to like that? Was it distant? Was it casual? Was he distracted? Was he pulling away? You start becoming a detective of emotional crumbs. That's what nobody tells you. Waiting turns intelligent women into interpreters of silence. And sometimes, honestly, the silence says enough already. You just don't want to hear it yet. I used to pretend I was less affected than I was. That was another humiliating part. I mastered the art of acting emotionally casual while internally spiraling. I'd leave his messages unopened for 20 minutes on purpose while staring at the notification the entire time. I'd think, don't respond too fast, as if emotional restraint could somehow protect me from attachment. Meanwhile, my body had already reacted before my mind even formed the strategy. Heart racing, chest tight, tiny adrenaline spike. It's strange how the body exposes what the ego tries to hide. And sometimes he would disappear for a day or two, not fully, not enough to call it abandonment exactly, just enough distance to create confusion. That middle zone is brutal. Because if someone is horrible all the time, eventually reality becomes obvious. But inconsistency, that keeps hope alive. And hope can become addictive, especially when you're not even chasing the person anymore. You're chasing relief. Relief from uncertainty. Relief from overthinking. Relief from the ache of not knowing where you stand. That's why one text suddenly feels euphoric. Not because it's deeply romantic. Because your body finally gets to unclench for a second. I don't say this proudly, but there were nights I genuinely couldn't concentrate on anything else. I'd open Netflix and restart the same episode 4 times because I kept drifting back into imaginary conversations with him. Sometimes I'd replay tiny moments obsessively. The way he touched the back of my neck once while passing behind me in the kitchen. The way his voice softened unexpectedly when he got tired. The way he looked at me one night after we laughed hard at something stupid and for 1 second he seemed emotionally unguarded. Those moments become dangerous when they're rare, because you start building entire emotional realities around fragments. You start thinking, see, that's the real him. Maybe. But inconsistent love makes you emotionally survive on potential instead of reality. And potential is intoxicating. There is another part people rarely admit. Sometimes the waiting actually feels meaningful. That's the uncomfortable truth. It gives your emotions somewhere to go. It gives your mind a problem to solve. It gives loneliness a storyline, especially if your own life feels emotionally disconnected in other ways. Sometimes waiting for someone becomes the most emotionally stimulating part of your day. I know that sounds depressing. Maybe it is. But I think a lot of people quietly live like this. Half in their actual life. Half inside anticipation. Waiting for a text. Waiting for clarity. Waiting for someone to finally become emotionally consistent enough to relax around. And meanwhile life is still happening. Your coffee gets cold. Your mother is aging. Friends stop inviting you out as much because you're emotionally distracted all the time. You stop listening fully during conversations because part of your brain is elsewhere. Somewhere inside emotional suspense. I remember driving one night after we had this strange almost argument. Not even a real argument. That's what made it worse. Just emotional weirdness. He got distant suddenly after being affectionate all weekend. I asked if something was wrong. He said, "No, I'm just tired." But his energy had changed. And if you've loved someone anxiously, you know exactly what I mean when I say energy changes become louder than words. So I drove around for almost an hour pretending I needed groceries. I didn't. I just couldn't calm down. I kept replaying the interaction at red lights like there was some clue hidden inside it. Did I say too much? Was I too emotional? Did intimacy make him pull back again? And then this really embarrassing thought crossed my mind. Maybe if I become less needy, he'll come closer. That thought alone says so much about what waiting does to a person. Because eventually you stop asking, does this relationship meet my needs? And start asking, how do I become easier to love? That's the shift. That's the dangerous part. When your emotional energy slowly reorganizes around maintaining connection instead of maintaining self-respect. And it happens quietly. You don't notice it immediately. You just start tolerating more ambiguity, more emotional absence, more confusion. Because every once in a while he comes close again. And closeness after deprivation feels almost intoxicating. I think that's why people stay stuck so long in emotionally inconsistent dynamics. The reunion feels so relieving that you temporarily forget how painful the instability was. Until it happens again, and again, and eventually your body starts living in cycles. Hope, anxiety, relief, confusion, distance, return, over and over until exhaustion starts feeling normal. He did care though. I still hear that sentence inside myself sometimes. And to be fair, he did. I think that's what made it harder. This wasn't some cartoon villain situation. Sometimes he looked at me with genuine tenderness. Sometimes he reached for my hand absent-mindedly in public. Sometimes he'd open up emotionally for 15 minutes and I'd think, finally, there you are. Then something inside him would close again. Like vulnerability had an internal time limit. And honestly, part of me understood him. That was the problem too. I could see his fear. I could see his emotional immaturity. I could see the moments he almost stayed emotionally present, but retreated instead. Understanding someone can become another trap. Because empathy starts overriding reality. He's trying. Is he? Maybe. That's the kind of conversations you start having with yourself late at night. Nothing feels fully clear, which is exactly why you stay emotionally hooked. Certainty ends things. Ambiguity prolongs them. And maybe the hardest truth of all is this. At some point, I wasn't even waiting for him anymore. Not really. I was waiting for the version of myself that finally felt chosen. The version that could finally relax. Finally stop overanalyzing. Finally stop monitoring emotional temperature changes like survival depended on it. I thought if he fully chose me, all the anxiety would disappear. But deep down, I think my body already knew something my mind wasn't ready to admit yet. Love should not feel like constantly refreshing an empty screen hoping something appears. And still, every morning, I checked anyway. The phrase sounded reasonable at first. I just need some space. Not cruel. Not dramatic. Not even unusual. That's part of why it works so well. Because when someone says it calmly enough, maturely enough, you almost feel guilty for reacting emotionally to it. So instead of asking yourself how the distance is affecting you, you start trying to become more understanding. And I did. God, I did. I became unbelievably understanding. To understanding, honestly, I told myself, he's overwhelmed. He's stressed. He's emotionally exhausted. He's not good at expressing himself. He's been through things. He just needs time. And maybe some of that was true. But there's a quiet form of self-abandonment that happens when you constantly explain away behavior that hurts you just because you can empathize with where it comes from. That realization came later though. At the time, I thought patience was love. I remember the first time I felt the shift clearly. We were sitting together on his couch late at night. The TV was on, but muted because neither of us was really watching it. One of those strange quiet evenings. where the emotional atmosphere feels louder than the actual conversation. Earlier that night, he'd been affectionate, his hand on my leg, pulling me closer absent-mindedly, kissing my forehead while scrolling through his phone. Tiny things. But when someone has become emotionally inconsistent, tiny things start feeling medically significant, like your body records them for survival. And then suddenly, he changed. Not aggressively, not obviously, just enough. His responses shortened. His eyes stopped lingering. His body stayed physically near me while emotionally leaving the room inch by inch. It's hard to explain this to people who haven't experienced it. Sometimes distance enters a room long before someone physically walks away. I felt it immediately. My stomach tightened before my mind even formed a thought. And the embarrassing part is I tried to act normal. I kept talking casually, kept pretending I didn't notice. Because once you become emotionally afraid of losing connection, you start treating your own instincts like threats. You don't want to sound too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too aware. So instead, you monitor yourself constantly. Don't ruin the mood. Don't ask too many questions. Don't make him feel trapped. Meanwhile, your nervous system is already halfway into panic. What changed? Nothing. That word. Nothing. I think emotionally avoidant people underestimate how violent that word can feel sometimes. Because you know something changed. Your body knows. The room knows. But now reality itself feels unstable because the emotional experience happening right in front of you is being quietly denied. And to be fair to him, I don't even think he fully understood his own shifts sometimes. That's the complicated part. People want simple villains so badly, but emotional confusion is usually messier than that. I think closeness genuinely overwhelmed him sometimes. Not because he didn't feel anything. Maybe because he felt too much and didn't know how to stay present inside it. That doesn't erase the damage though. Intent and impact are not the same thing. After that night, the silence started stretching. Not complete silence. Honestly, complete silence would have been easier. It was the partial presence that hurt the most. A random meme at 2 a.m. A delayed sorry, busy day. Watching my story, but not responding. Sending affection in microscopic doses, just often enough to prevent emotional detachment. That middle zone can make a person lose themselves psychologically, because there's never enough clarity to grieve properly. You just stay suspended, and suspended emotions become obsessive emotions. I remember sitting in my car outside a grocery store one evening reading one of his texts over and over again. Sorry, I've just had a lot on my mind lately. I stared at it for probably 10 minutes. Not because the message itself was profound. It wasn't. But because emotionally attached people start reading tone like forensic analysts. Was he distancing? Was he trying? Was this honesty? Was this a soft goodbye? Did he secretly want me to fight for him? Did he want space? Did he want reassurance? Did he want freedom? You start exhausting yourself trying to decode emotionally unavailable behavior into something emotionally survivable. And eventually your entire relationship starts happening more inside your head than in reality. I think one of the saddest parts was how much I adjusted myself around his discomfort. I became softer, less expressive, less demanding. I started editing my feelings before speaking them out loud. Even my text messages changed. I'd type, "I miss you," then erase it. Replace it with, "Hope your day's going okay," as if minimizing my emotional needs would somehow make connection safer. And maybe he noticed. Maybe he didn't. But I noticed. My body noticed. Because every time you silence yourself to maintain emotional proximity with someone, something inside you starts becoming lonelier. There was one moment I still think about sometimes. We were lying in bed after being close physically. The room was dark except for light from the hallway slipping through the cracked door. And for maybe 30 seconds, he held me differently. Not sexually, not casually, just gently, like his guard had accidentally fallen asleep for a minute. I could feel him breathing slower, feel his body relaxing against mine. And in that tiny moment, something inside me softened too. I remember thinking, there you are. Not the distant version, not the emotionally careful version, just him. Then, almost immediately, he pulled away slightly, not dramatically, barely noticeable honestly, but noticeable enough. Enough for my body to feel the loss before my mind could rationalize it. And the horrible thing is, I pretended not to notice that too. I stared at the ceiling quietly, like if I stayed emotionally low maintenance enough, maybe he'd come back toward me on his own. Sometimes I wonder how many women have done that exact thing. Lied still beside someone they loved while silently negotiating with themselves about how much emotional closeness they were allowed to ask for. He said he needed space. Did he? Partially. And the rest. He was scared of how real it felt. That's the conclusion I kept returning to. Maybe because it hurt less than admitting another possibility. That someone can care about you deeply and still not choose you properly. That realization is brutal because we grow up believing love naturally creates consistency, effort, clarity. But sometimes people feel genuine emotion and still remain emotionally unequipped to sustain intimacy. And if you're empathetic, you can spend years drowning in compassion for someone who keeps hurting you accidentally, repeatedly, still hurting you. I also need to admit something uncomfortable. Part of me became addicted to trying to get him back emotionally every time he withdrew. Not manipulate him, not control him, just restore closeness. Like every emotional distance created a problem my nervous system urgently needed to solve. If he became quiet, I became hyper-aware. If he pulled back, I leaned in emotionally. If he disappeared for a few hours, my mind started scanning for danger. And sometimes he would come back suddenly warm again. That's what confused me most. Because the warmth felt real. He'd call me late at night sounding softer. Tell me he missed me. Ask about my day in a voice that felt emotionally present again. And my entire body would relax instantly. Like emotional oxygen had returned to the room. That's when I realized something terrifying. I was becoming emotionally dependent on unpredictability. Stable love doesn't create emotional whiplash like that. It doesn't train your body to celebrate basic consistency like survival rations. One night, I finally asked him directly, "Why do you pull away after we get close?" And I swear, the look on his face almost hurt more than the answer, because he looked genuinely uncomfortable with himself. Not defensive, not angry, just exposed. Like I had accidentally touched something he spent most of his life avoiding. He shrugged slightly and said, "I don't know." And maybe that was the most honest thing he ever said to me. Because not everyone understands their avoidance while they're doing it. Some people only recognize the pattern afterward, alone, months later, when the silence they asked for becomes unbearable. And I think that happened to him too. But by then, the silence had already changed me. That's what people miss. They think the pain comes from the ending. Sometimes the pain comes from slowly learning that your emotional safety keeps disappearing inside the relationship itself. Little by little. Conversation by conversation. Withdrawal by withdrawal. Until one day you notice you no longer feel relaxed around someone you love. Only alert. Monitoring. Adjusting. preparing, and still, if he texted, my heart raced. That's the contradiction nobody talks about enough. You can know something is hurting you and still crave it. You can feel emotionally exhausted and emotionally attached at the exact same time. You can miss someone while quietly realizing their presence destabilizes you. Human emotions are ugly like that sometimes. Not poetic, not spiritual, just painfully human. Toward the end, I remember staring at my phone one night after another vague conversation about needing space. And for the first time, I didn't feel dramatic sadness. I felt tired, deeply tired, like my body could no longer survive the constant shape-shifting between closeness and distance. I sat there in the dark hearing my refrigerator hum from the kitchen, and this thought entered my mind so quietly I almost missed it. Maybe love is not supposed to feel like waiting for someone to stop leaving emotionally. And honestly, that thought changed something in me. Even before I fully admitted it did. There are things people admit after heartbreak. The dramatic things. The socially acceptable things. I cried for weeks. I couldn't eat. I missed him. Fine. But there's another category nobody talks about honestly enough. The humiliating things. The strange little behaviors that start happening when someone occupies too much emotional space in your mind and you're trying desperately to maintain dignity while slowly losing emotional balance. Internally, those parts usually stay hidden because they don't sound profound. They sound human, and human is harder to confess. I used to open his profile almost mechanically, not even because I expected something anymore. Just habit. Like emotional muscle memory. I'd be making coffee in the morning, standing there half awake watching the kettle boil, and somehow my thumb would already be there scrolling before my brain consciously decided anything. Sometimes there was nothing new. Same profile picture, same posts, same silence, and weirdly that almost felt worse. Because when someone disappears emotionally, it remains digitally visible. Your mind starts creating stories in the empty space. You start studying tiny details. He followed someone new. He changed a song. He was online 3 minutes ago. He viewed my story immediately. He didn't react though. You tell yourself these things don't matter while emotionally reacting to every single one. That contradiction becomes exhausting. I remember one night I opened our old messages searching for one specific conversation. I don't even remember what I was originally looking for anymore. But somehow 3 hours disappeared. 3 hours. Just scrolling upward through emotional archaeology. Photos. Voice notes. Tiny jokes that used to feel intimate. Plans that never happened. Affection frozen in screenshots, while the actual relationship quietly deteriorated in real time. And the whole time I kept having this strange split experience internally. Part of me was fully emotionally inside the memories. The other part was watching myself thinking, this is unhealthy. But I kept scrolling anyway. That's what emotional attachment does sometimes. You witness yourself doing things that hurt you while simultaneously feeling unable to stop. There's something particularly painful about rereading old tenderness after someone becomes distant. Because suddenly every loving sentence feels suspicious. Can't wait to see you. Did you mean that then? Or were you lonely? You make me feel calm. Was that real? Or temporary? I'm not going anywhere. That one aged horribly. Sometimes I type entire paragraphs to him and delete them before sending. Not dramatic paragraphs either. That would almost feel easier to justify. I mean honest paragraphs. The dangerous kind. The kind where you stop pretending to be emotionally low maintenance. I'd write things like, I don't know why I feel anxious every time you pull away. Or, I miss who you are when your guard drops. Or, I need consistency more than occasional intensity. Then I'd stare at the message, heart pounding, thumb hovering over send, and eventually delete. Because vulnerability starts feeling terrifying when intimacy has become emotionally unstable. You stop trusting emotional exposure to be received safely. So instead, you become quieter, more edited, more emotionally strategic, which sounds mature from the outside sometimes. But honestly, a lot of it was fear. I also need to admit something deeply embarrassing. There were moments I rehearsed conversations that never happened. Full conversations. In the shower, while driving, folding laundry, walking through grocery store aisles, pretending to compare cereal brands, while mentally arguing with a man who wasn't even there. Sometimes in the imaginary versions, he finally understood me. Sometimes he apologized. Sometimes he explained everything perfectly. Sometimes he admitted he was scared. And sometimes the imaginary conversations became so emotionally vivid that reality erward felt almost disappointing. That's when I realized loneliness can become immersive. Your inner world starts compensating for emotional absence in ways that feel almost real. One of the lowest moments happened on a Tuesday night. Nothing dramatic had even happened. That's important. There wasn't a breakup. There wasn't a fight. He had just become emotionally distant again for a few days. And somehow the uncertainty felt heavier than actual conflict. I remember cleaning my apartment aggressively at almost midnight. Not normal cleaning. Emotionally unwell cleaning. Kitchen counters. Bathroom mirrors. Organizing drawers that didn't need organizing. Vacuuming already clean floors. My body felt restless in this unbearable way. Like I physically could not sit still inside my own emotions. And I remember suddenly stopping in the middle of folding towels because this thought hit me so hard it almost made me nauseous. I think I'm trying to clean away the feeling of being unwanted. That realization was brutal because sometimes emotional pain leaks sideways into ordinary behavior. You think you're cleaning. You think you're staying productive. But really your nervous system is begging for control somewhere. Anywhere. I also became weirdly attached to timing. His timing. My timing. Response timing. If he replied quickly, I relaxed. If he took hours, I spiraled quietly while pretending to function normally. I'd look at my phone and think, okay, don't check again. Then check for minutes later. And every emotionally attached person knows this specific humiliation. Seeing their name light up your screen and feeling your stomach drop before you even open the message. Because your body starts associating communication with emotional uncertainty instead of safety. There was another thing I never admitted while it was happening. Sometimes I intentionally tried to appear less available emotionally because I hoped he'd feel my absence. Not manipulative in a cruel way. Just desperate. Human desperate. I'd wait longer to answer. Post pictures looking calm and detached while internally overthinking everything. Convince myself, maybe if I pull back, he'll finally realize what he's losing. But the horrible part was, even while doing it, I still wanted him to notice immediately. I wanted him to chase me, reassure me, close the distance. So the detachment was never real detachment. It was wounded hope wearing a colder outfit. He misses you. Then why does he act like this? I don't know. That became the exhausting loop inside my head. Because some of his behavior genuinely did feel caring. That's what made it psychologically confusing. He remembered tiny details about me. Check on me randomly. Look at me sometimes with this softness that felt completely unguarded. Then disappear emotionally again before intimacy could fully settle into something stable. It felt like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how gentle you are with it, something keeps slipping through. I remember one specific voice note he sent me late at night. He sounded tired, real, and filtered. And for 30 seconds, I heard the version of him I'd been emotionally searching for the entire relationship. No emotional distance, no carefulness, no disappearing act, just honesty. I replayed the voice note an embarrassing number of times afterward, not because of what he said exactly, because of how emotionally present he sounded while saying it. People become attached to emotional access sometimes more than the actual person. I understand that now. The hardest thing to admit is this. Part of me knew long before I left. Not intellectually, physically. My body knew. I started feeling anxious before seeing him instead of excited. Started over-monitoring his mood the second we entered a room together. Started feeling relief when conversations ended smoothly, which is not how secure love is supposed to feel. Secure love shouldn't feel like successfully avoiding emotional danger. But I ignored those signals because there were still moments, beautiful moments honestly, where connection felt possible again. And hope is persuasive, especially when mixed with chemistry, memory, loneliness, and intermittent affection. That combination can make emotionally intelligent people act completely against their own well-being. There is a particular sadness in realizing how much of yourself became organized around someone else's emotional availability. I missed texts while talking to friends because I was secretly checking my phone under the table. I lost focus during movies. I stopped being fully present in my own life. Even my inner dialogue changed. Everything became emotionally filtered through him somehow. Would he like this? Should I tell him this? Why hasn't he answered? Did I say too much yesterday? Should I give him more space? That's when attachment quietly stops feeling like love and starts feeling like psychological occupation. And maybe the most embarrassing truth of all. Sometimes I knew he was emotionally unavailable while actively romanticizing him anyway. I turned his inconsistency into mystery, his distance into depth, his confusion into complexity, because accepting reality would have required grieving not only him, but the future version of us I kept emotionally living inside. And I wasn't ready yet. So instead, I waited. I analyzed. I checked my phone. I replayed memories. I deleted messages. I acted detached. I hoped harder. I shrank myself quietly. And the strangest part is, from the outside, my life probably looked completely normal. That's what emotional suffering looks like sometimes. Not dramatic collapse. Just a woman standing in her kitchen at 1 a.m. rereading old messages with tears in her eyes. Then going to work the next morning pretending she slept fine. I think the body realizes things before the mind does. The mind negotiates, explains, romanticizes, delays. The body just reacts. Quietly at first. A tight chest, shallow breathing, trouble sleeping after a good day instead of before it. That strange sinking feeling when his name appears on your phone instead of excitement. I didn't understand that at the time. I thought anxiety meant I cared deeply. Now, I think sometimes anxiety is the body begging you to notice inconsistency your heart keeps trying to rewrite into love. There was a period where I started feeling nervous before seeing him. Not butterflies. Not anticipation. Nervous. And that distinction matters. Because people confuse those feelings constantly. Butterflies still feel light somehow. Open. Curious. This felt different. This felt like my body preparing for emotional unpredictability. Would he be warm tonight? Distant? Affectionate for 3 hours then emotionally gone afterward? Would I leave feeling closer to him or emptier than before? I never knew. And eventually my nervous system stopped experiencing the relationship as connection and started experiencing it as uncertainty management. That changes you. I remember getting ready to see him one evening and suddenly realizing I'd changed outfits 4 times. Not because I cared about looking nice. That wasn't it. I was trying to control the emotional atmosphere before it even happened. If I looked softer, maybe he'd stay emotionally open longer. If I looked too emotional, maybe he'd pull away. If I acted too affectionate, maybe he'd disappear afterward. That's the exhausting thing about emotionally inconsistent relationships. You slowly start believing closeness depends on your ability to perform correctly. So you monitor yourself constantly. Tone, timing, facial expressions. How long you wait before responding. How much emotion you reveal at once. And meanwhile, your body is quietly deteriorating underneath all the emotional management. One night he texted, "Come over." That was it. No warmth, no tenderness, no emotional reassurance. Just, "Come over." And still, my heart started racing immediately, which honestly embarrassed me, because logically I already knew the pattern. I knew closeness would probably feel good temporarily and confusing afterward. But the body doesn't always care about logic when attachment is involved. So I went. Of course I went. I remember sitting in my car outside his place for a minute before going inside. Hands on the steering wheel. Music still playing softly. Air conditioning humming. And I had this strange feeling in my stomach. Not dread exactly. More like emotional caution. Like some part of me already knew I would leave that night overthinking everything again. But another part still hoped. Maybe tonight will feel different. Hope keeps people in situations their bodies are already trying to escape. When he opened the door, he smiled immediately. And the horrible thing is, that smile still worked on me. You know those moments where your body relaxes before your mind can even protect you? That. Suddenly I felt calmer, warmer, safer, and I hated how quickly I softened. Because emotionally inconsistent love trains your body to treat temporary closeness like relief from pain, not stable connection. Relief. There's a difference. That night actually started beautifully, which almost made it worse. We laughed, ordered food, sat close together on the couch. He touched me casually in those absent-minded ways that always felt more intimate than dramatic affection. Hand on my knee, pulling me toward him while half distracted, kissing my forehead during conversation like it was instinctive. And I remember thinking, see, maybe I imagined the distance. That's how the cycle resets. Not through manipulation necessarily. Sometimes just through temporary emotional availability. But later, something shifted again. It always happened in subtle ways first. He became quieter, started checking his phone more. His responses got slower. His eyes stopped meeting mine as often. And immediately, my body reacted. Not my thoughts. My body. Chest tight. Heartbeat changing. Sudden alertness. It's terrifying when your nervous system starts detecting emotional withdrawal before words even appear. Especially because part of you still wants to deny it. So, externally I stayed calm. Internally I was already spiraling. Are you okay? Yeah, just tired. There it was again. Tired. Busy. Overwhelmed. Needs space. Eventually, emotionally unavailable language starts sounding repetitive in your bones. Not because the reasons are fake necessarily, but because the emotional outcome keeps staying the same. Distance. What really confused me was this. Sometimes after intimacy, he became colder. Not mean. Not cruel, just emotionally harder to reach. And I spent so long trying to understand that. Because after closeness, I usually felt softer, more connected, more emotionally open. But sometimes after we were closest, he seemed emotionally halfway out the door already. That contradiction hurt in ways I couldn't fully explain, especially because he didn't seem fully conscious of it himself. I remember lying beside him one night after we'd been intimate, staring at the ceiling while he scrolled through his phone quietly next to me. And suddenly I felt lonely. Not alone. Lonely. There's a difference. Alone is physical. Lonely is emotional absence in the presence of another person. That kind of loneliness is heavier somehow. I could feel his body beside mine, feel the warmth of his arm against me. But emotionally, he felt far away already. And the silence between us started filling with thoughts I didn't want to think. Did I imagine everything? Why does closeness make him retreat? Why do I feel anxious right after the moments I should feel safest? He cares about you. Then why do I feel emotionally abandoned beside him sometimes? No answer ever fully satisfied that question. My body started developing strange habits during that phase of the relationship. I'd check my phone compulsively even when no notification appeared. Wake up in the middle of the night feeling anxious for no identifiable reason. Feel exhausted after seeing him instead of emotionally nourished. That last one really affected me because I started noticing I needed recovery time after emotional closeness. I'd come home and just sit in silence sometimes. No TV, no music, just staring at the wall trying to emotionally regulate after another night of trying to interpret mixed signals. That isn't love feeling safe in the body. That's the body struggling to process emotional instability. There was one moment that changed something permanently for me. Tiny moment, probably meaningless to anyone else. We were at dinner together and he reached across the table for my hand automatically while talking. Completely natural, completely unconscious. And for maybe 5 seconds, I felt calm. Like real calm. Then his phone lit up, and instantly his energy changed. Attention gone. Hand gone. Presence gone. Just like that. And I remember my body reacting so fast it almost scared me. Immediate disappointment. Immediate tension. Immediate emotional drop. It felt chemical. That's when I realized this relationship wasn't just affecting my feelings anymore. It was conditioning my nervous system, training my body to brace for emotional disconnection constantly. I started becoming emotionally hypervigilant, listening for changes in tone, reading pauses, monitoring response speed, watching facial expressions to carefully. People think anxiety is always loud crying or panic attacks. Sometimes anxiety is becoming an expert observer because your emotional safety feels unpredictable. You become incredibly skilled at sensing emotional shifts because some part of your body believes detecting distance early might protect you from pain. But it never really does. It just exhausts you slowly. One evening, my friend asked me a simple question. Do you even feel relaxed around him anymore? And I answered too quickly. Of course. But later that night, I sat alone replaying the question and realized I didn't. Not fully. Not consistently. I felt relief around him sometimes. Intensity. Chemistry. Longing. Attachment. But relaxation. Very rarely. Because relaxation requires emotional safety. And my body no longer trusted the connection enough to fully rest inside it. That realization broke my heart more than the actual distancing ever did. I think that's when grief really started. Not when he pulled away. Not when the relationship weakened. When my body stopped feeling safe even during the good moments. Because then, even happiness started carrying anxiety underneath it. Even tenderness became temporary, fragile, conditional. Like part of me was already mourning while still participating in the relationship. And the strange thing is, I didn't leave immediately after realizing all this. That's important too. Self-awareness doesn't instantly end attachment. Sometimes you recognize the emotional damage while still craving the person intensely. Human beings are contradictory like that. I could feel my nervous system deteriorating in real time, and still miss him when he left. Still wait for his texts. Still replay his tenderness. Still hope consistency would finally arrive. Part of me wanted peace. Another part still wanted him. And honestly, those two desires were at war inside me for a very long time. I think one of the hardest parts of healing was admitting that he wasn't a monster. Honestly, I almost wished he had been sometimes. It would have simplified everything. If he were cruel all the time, emotionally cold all the time, manipulative in some obvious cinematic way, eventually reality would have become undeniable, anger would have arrived cleanly. The grief would have had somewhere direct to land. But that wasn't the relationship. The truth was messier. He could be deeply thoughtful sometimes, emotionally attentive in small, unexpected moments, soft in ways he probably didn't even realize affected me so much. And I think that's what confused me for so long. Because people talk about emotionally unavailable men like they never care at all. Some of them do care. That's what makes it painful. I remember one evening I got sick unexpectedly. Nothing dramatic, just one of those heavy, exhausted fevers where even sitting upright feels annoying. I didn't tell him immediately because by that point I had already learned not to expect too much emotionally. But somehow he noticed something was off from the way I was texting. "You okay?" I said I was fine. He called anyway. And I still remember how his voice sounded softer than usual when he heard how sick I actually was. Not performative softness. Not romantic movie softness. Real concern. He asked if I had eaten. Told me to check my temperature. Showed up later with medicine and electrolyte drinks I hadn't asked for. And the strange thing is, he stayed emotionally present that whole night. No distancing. No disappearing. No mixed signals. Just there. We sat on my couch quietly while some random cooking show played in the background neither of us cared about. At one point, I fell asleep against his shoulder for maybe 20 minutes. When I woke up, he hadn't moved. Tiny moment. But moments like that become emotionally dangerous when consistency is rare. Because suddenly your heart says, "See, this is who he really is underneath everything else." And maybe part of that was true. But people are not only their softest moments. That took me a long time to understand. I think he genuinely wanted intimacy sometimes. I really do. You could see it in flashes. The way he looked at me when he forgot to guard himself. The way his voice changed when he got emotionally tired enough to stop performing emotional control. The random tenderness that appeared when he wasn't overthinking closeness. There were moments he seemed almost surprised by his own vulnerability. Like intimacy escaped him accidentally. And honestly, those moments felt incredibly real. That's why I stayed emotionally attached longer than I should have. Not because I was delusional. Because I had seen something genuine in him. The problem was, genuine emotion and emotional availability are not the same thing. One night we stayed up talking until almost 3 a.m. No phones. No distractions. Just one of those unexpectedly honest conversations people fall into when exhaustion lowers emotional defenses. And for the first time, he started talking about himself in a way that felt unfiltered. His childhood. The pressure he put on himself constantly. The way he shut down emotionally when overwhelmed. How uncomfortable vulnerability made him feel sometimes, even when he wanted connection. And I remember sitting there realizing, oh, you don't know how to stay emotionally present once something becomes real. Not fully. Not for long. That realization softened me toward him in ways that were probably dangerous for me emotionally. Because once you understand someone's wounds, it becomes very easy to start tolerating behavior that hurts you. Empathy can become self-abandonment so quietly. He's trying. Is he? I think so. But are you happy? That question used to make me uncomfortable. Because the answer kept changing depending on the day. Sometimes yes. Sometimes completely. Sometimes I felt deeply connected to him in ways I struggle to explain even now. And other times, I felt profoundly alone beside him. That contradiction exhausted me emotionally because both experiences were real. People always want one clean truth after relationships end. But some connections contain conflicting truths simultaneously. He cared. He avoided. He tried. He withdrew. He missed me. He disappeared emotionally anyway. All of those things existed at once. There's a specific kind of masculine avoidance people misunderstand sometimes. Not toxic indifference. Not calculated manipulation. More like emotional panic disguised as distance. I saw it happen in real time with him occasionally, especially after moments of deep closeness. It was almost physical. We'd spend an entire weekend emotionally connected, laughing, talking openly, touching naturally, existing together without tension. And then suddenly he'd become quieter afterward. Like intimacy itself overloaded something internally. At first I interpreted that as rejection, and maybe part of it was. But later I started sensing something more complicated underneath it. Fear, loss of control, emotional exposure. Not because he didn't feel enough. Maybe because he felt too much and didn't know how to regulate it. Still understanding that didn't make the loneliness disappear. I remember one morning specifically. We had spent the night together and woke up tangled together in that sleepy, peaceful way couples sometimes do before reality fully enters the room. For maybe 10 minutes, everything felt easy. No tension. No uncertainty. Just warmth. He was half asleep, pulling me closer unconsciously every time I shifted away slightly. And in moments like that, I think he loved me as fully as he knew how. I really believe that. But then, morning consciousness arrived. You could almost feel him returning to himself emotionally. He got quieter, more distracted, started scrolling through his phone, creating distance in microscopic ways. And I remember lying there feeling grief-rife before the day had even properly started. Because I already knew the emotional pattern that would follow. Closeness, retreat, confusion, space. Again, the painful thing about emotionally unavailable people that sometimes they genuinely mean the loving things they say in the moment they say them. I think he did mean them. That's why it hurts so much afterward when behavior stopped matching emotion consistently. Because now you're trapped between two realities. The tenderness you experienced and the instability you survived. And both are real. I also think he hated hurting me. Not enough to change quickly, but enough to feel conflicted about it. There were moments I caught guilt in his face before he emotionally pulled away again. Moments where he knew what he was doing even if he couldn't stop doing it. That's another painful truth nobody talks about enough. Some people become aware of their avoidance while still repeating it. Awareness alone doesn't automatically create emotional capacity. One time, after disappearing emotionally for almost 2 days, he finally called me late at night. I answered trying to sound calmer than I felt. and his voice immediately softened. "You sound upset." I laughed quietly because the question almost felt absurd. Of course I was upset, but I still minimized it automatically. "No, I'm okay." There was silence for a second. Then he said something that stayed with me for months afterward. "I know I make this hard sometimes." Sometimes. That word again. Sometimes. As if emotional instability existed only in isolated moments instead of shaping the entire emotional atmosphere between us. But still, he admitted it, and I could hear something underneath his voice that sounded genuine. Regret maybe. Confusion. Self-awareness he didn't fully know what to do with. And unfortunately, moments like that gave me hope all over again. Because emotionally attached people don't need perfection to stay. Sometimes they just need glimpses of accountability. Tiny signs the other person understands the pain too. I think part of him wanted real intimacy desperately, but another part treated emotional dependence like danger. So every time closeness deepened, conflict started inside him. Stay, run, open, withdraw, need her, escape. You could almost feel both impulses fighting inside the relationship. And honestly, that internal conflict eventually infected me too. Because after enough inconsistency, I started becoming conflicted about intimacy myself. Part of me wanted closeness. Another part braced for abandonment immediately afterward. That's how emotional instability spreads between people. There is a memory I still think about sometimes, even now. We were driving somewhere late at night with the windows slightly down because the air conditioning had stopped working properly. A song came on quietly in the background, and for some reason neither of us talked for a while. Then suddenly he reached over and squeezed my hand once. Not dramatically, not romantically, just instinctively. And I remember looking at him thinking, "You do love me, in your way, in the only way you currently know how." And maybe that realization was both beautiful and devastating at the same time. Because love alone is not always enough to create emotional safety. Sometimes two people genuinely care about each other while continuously hurting each other anyway. Not because the love is fake. Because emotional capacity matters too. Consistency matters. Presence matters. The ability to remain emotionally available after vulnerability matters. He loved her. Did he? Yes, I think so. Then why couldn't he stay emotionally present? Some questions don't have satisfying answers. Sometimes people reach for intimacy while simultaneously fearing what intimacy requires from them. Sometimes someone misses you while actively creating the distance they later feel lonely inside. Sometimes someone wants closeness but resents the vulnerability that comes with it. Human beings are contradictory, especially wounded ones. And I think healing finally began when I stopped trying to reduce him into one simple category: villain, soulmate, manipulator, coward. None of those words fully captured the truth. He was just human, emotionally limited in ways that deeply affected me, loving in ways that confused me, avoidant in ways that slowly exhausted us both. And maybe the saddest part is this: I don't think he fully understood what he was losing while he was losing it. Not because he didn't care, because avoidance delays emotional realization sometimes. People ask for space, then feel the grief later when silence finally settles long enough for them to hear themselves clearly. And by then, the other person has usually already started learning how to survive without them. I don't think there was one dramatic ending. No screaming fight. No cinematic goodbye. No moment where everything shattered cleanly. Honestly, I almost wish there had been. Because clean endings give grief direction. This was slower than that. More humiliating. It was the gradual realization that my emotional state had become dependent on whether or not someone else reached for me that day. And once you notice that, you can't fully unsee it anymore. The night it really hit me wasn't even special. That's what makes it hard to explain. Nothing catastrophic happened. I was just home alone on a Thursday night, sitting on my couch with takeout getting cold on the coffee table while my phone stayed silent beside me. That's it. Ordinary scene. Ordinary silence. But sometimes ordinary silence becomes unbearable when your entire nervous system has been trained to wait for emotional confirmation. I kept glancing at my phone every few minutes automatically. Not consciously even. Just reflex. Screen dark. Still dark. Still nothing. And every time I checked, I told myself, stop doing that. Then I'd do it again anyway. Earlier that day, we'd had a slightly distant conversation. Not a fight. Just emotional static. His replies shorter than usual. Mine overly careful. And I could already feel myself slipping into anticipation mode afterward. Waiting for him to fix the distance. Waiting for reassurance. Waiting for some sign that we were emotionally okay again. That waiting became its own full-body experience eventually. You don't just think it. You live inside it physically. The inability to focus. The compulsive phone checking. The low-grade anxiety humming underneath ordinary tasks. I remember trying to watch something on TV that night and realizing I had rewound the same scene 3 times because I hadn't processed a single word. My mind was somewhere else entirely, somewhere between hope and humiliation. There's something deeply painful about realizing you are emotionally orbiting another human being while they continue living relatively normally. That awareness changes the emotional temperature inside you, because suddenly you start seeing your own behavior more clearly. The waiting, the monitoring, the emotional dependence disguised as love. And honestly, part of me felt ashamed. Not because loving someone is shameful, but because I could feel myself abandoning myself in real time and still struggling to stop. I remember opening our message thread that night and scrolling upward again. Not even searching for anything specific anymore. Just emotionally feeding the attachment. Looking for proof. Tenderness. Consistency. Hope. I stopped on one message he sent months earlier. I feel calm with you. And I just stared at it. Because maybe he did feel calm with me sometimes. But I didn't feel calm anymore. That realization landed differently. Quietly. Heavily. What are you doing? The thought appeared so suddenly, almost felt like someone else had spoken. I remember physically freezing for a second. Phone in my hand. Apartment silent except for the refrigerator humming softly in the kitchen. What are you doing to yourself? And honestly, I didn't fully know how to answer that. Because emotional attachment becomes strange after a while. You're suffering. You know you're suffering. You recognize the cycle. And yet part of you still believes one more moment of reassurance might finally stabilize everything. One perfect conversation. One emotionally open night. One consistent week. You keep emotionally gambling against your own exhaustion. I put my phone face down on the couch and tried not to look at it. 30 seconds later, I picked it back up again. That's the level of nervous system conditioning I'm talking about. People romanticize these dynamics too much online sometimes. But there's nothing romantic about feeling psychologically tethered to someone's attention. It feels consuming, embarrassing, physically exhausting. At one point that night, I walked into the bathroom and caught my reflection accidentally. And I remember thinking, you look tired. Not heartbreak movie beautiful. Not tragically poetic. Just tired. Emotionally overextended. There were dark circles under my eyes from weeks of inconsistent sleep. My shoulders looked tense even standing still. And suddenly this overwhelming sadness came over me because I realized how much energy I had poured into trying to emotionally stabilize a connection that continuously destabilized me instead. The hardest part to admit is this. I think I had unconsciously made being chosen by him emotionally symbolic. It stopped being only about the relationship. Somewhere along the way, his consistency became tied to my worth. If he fully chose me, maybe I was finally enough, lovable enough, safe enough, important enough to stay for. That's why the inconsistency hurts so deeply. Not just because I loved him, because every withdrawal triggered old wounds I thought I had already healed. He just needs time. Or maybe he just can't meet you where you are. No, he cares. I know. Then why does this feel so awful? That internal conversation repeated endlessly near the end. Because both things fell true simultaneously. He cared, and I was suffering. Those realities kept colliding inside me. Round midnight, I finally got a text. My stomach dropped instantly. Not fluttered. Dropped. That distinction matters. I opened it too fast, even though I told myself I wouldn't. Sorry, long day. That was the message. 6 hours of silence. 3 words of explanation. And the worst part of me felt immediate relief. Relief. That realization devastated me more than the silence itself, because it showed me how little emotional consistency my nervous system had started accepting as enough. One small message, and suddenly my body unclenched slightly, like a starving person being handed crumbs. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. Not strategically, not to manipulate him. I genuinely didn't know what version of myself to respond with anymore. The understanding version, the hurt version, the emotionally exhausted version, the version still hoping. Eventually, I just replied, "No worries." And I hated how dishonest that felt, because there were worries. So many worries. But I had become so accustomed to minimizing my emotional reality to preserve connection that honesty itself started feeling dangerous. That's another thing nobody explains properly. When relationships become emotionally unstable, self-silencing starts feeling like maturity. You convince yourself you're being patient, understanding, secure. But sometimes you're just becoming emotionally invisible to avoid pushing someone further away. And invisibility slowly destroys intimacy anyway. I remember lying in bed afterward, unable to sleep. Phone beside me. Room dark. Cars moving faintly outside. And this strange clarity started creeping in through the exhaustion. Not dramatic clarity. Just small undeniable truths arriving one at a time. I was tired of overanalyzing. Tired of waiting for emotional consistency to appear. Tired of pretending tiny gestures compensated for chronic uncertainty. Tired of shaping myself around someone else's emotional limitations. And underneath all of that, I was tired of waiting to feel chosen. Because that's really what it had become. Not partnership. Not mutual emotional safety. Waiting. Waiting for him to stop withdrawing. Waiting for reassurance. Waiting for clarity. Waiting for consistency. Waiting for the relationship to finally feel emotionally safe enough to rest inside. And suddenly a terrifying thought entered my mind. What if this never changes? Not because he's evil. Not because he doesn't care. What if this is simply the maximum emotional availability he can currently offer? That thought broke something open inside me. Because if that was true, then I had a decision to make. Not about whether he loved me, about whether I could survive loving someone who repeatedly made me feel emotionally abandoned. And honestly, I didn't know. What are you doing? That question returned again quietly. This time I answered, I'm waiting. For what? I sat there staring into the dark for a long time before the real answer finally surfaced. To feel worthy enough to relax. That was it. That was the hidden wound underneath all of it. I kept thinking consistency would finally heal the insecurity. That if he fully chose me, fully stayed, fully opened, something inside me would finally settle. But another quieter truth was starting to emerge. Maybe no relationship was ever supposed to require this much self-abandonment to maintain. And still, the next morning I checked my phone before my eyes fully opened. Because awareness and detachment are not the same thing. People think realization changes you instantly. Usually it doesn't. Usually realization arrives first, then grief, then withdrawal, then the slow, painful process of teaching your body it no longer has to survive on emotional unpredictability. And that process had only just begun. Nobody talks honestly enough about how strange it feels after you finally stop chasing someone emotionally. People make it sound empowering immediately, clean, liberating, peaceful. Sometimes it is eventually. At first, it can feel horrifying because when your nervous system has spent months, sometimes years, organizing itself around emotional unpredictability, calm doesn't feel safe right away. It feels empty, suspicious, too quiet. The first thing I noticed after I started emotionally pulling back was how much silence there suddenly was in my day. Not literal silence, internal silence. No constant overanalyzing. No refreshing messages every 10 minutes. No rehearsing conversations in the shower. No waiting for his emotional temperature to determine whether my body could relax. At first, I thought that silence would feel freeing. Instead, it felt disorienting. Like walking out of a loud concert and suddenly hearing your own thoughts too clearly. I still reached for my phone automatically. That part didn't disappear immediately. I'd wake up and instinctively check for his name before remembering. Oh, we're not really doing this anymore. And every single time, there was this tiny drop inside my chest. Not dramatic heartbreak, just absence. A small emotional withdrawal symptom. Because attachment lives in the body long after decisions are made intellectually. One morning, I caught myself opening our message thread again out of habit. Thumb moving automatically. Brain barely awake yet. And for a few seconds, I just stared at the conversation silently. No new messages. No new apologies. No sudden emotional breakthrough. Just the quiet reality of two people slowly slipping out of each other's daily lives. That kind of grief is hard to explain because nothing visibly catastrophic happens. The relationship just thins out, like fabric wearing down slowly over time. I think people underestimate how addictive emotional inconsistency can become. Not because suffering feels good, because unpredictability creates intensity. And intensity can trick the body into confusing chaos for aliveness. So when the chaos stops, your nervous system almost panics at first. I remember sitting in my apartment one Friday night feeling strangely restless. No argument. No emotional confusion. No waiting for a text. And somehow that calm made me anxious. Which sounds insane until you've lived it. Because my body had become so accustomed to emotional stimulation that peace initially felt emotionally flat. I kept thinking, shouldn't I feel something stronger than this? But healing is rarely cinematic in the beginning. Sometimes it's just learning how to sit in an ordinary evening without emotionally chasing someone who keeps disappearing. There were moments I missed him so intensely it physically surprised me. Not even during dramatic emotional memories. During small stupid moments. Hearing a joke he would have laughed at. Passing a restaurant we used to go to. seeing someone wear the same cologne he wore. Once I heard a man laugh in a grocery store aisle, and for half a second it sounded exactly like him. My entire body reacted before my mind caught up. Heart racing, immediate emotional flash, then disappointment. And I just stood there holding a basket of groceries, feeling ridiculous for how quickly grief could still hijack me. That's the humiliating thing about attachment sometimes. You can know the relationship was hurting you and still miss someone with unbearable tenderness. He wasn't good for you. I know. So why do you still miss him? Because emotional memory isn't logical. Your body remembers tenderness too, not just pain. That's what makes letting go so complicated. If relationships were only suffering, nobody would stay attached. But grief keeps replaying the beautiful parts at first. The softness, the chemistry, the moments he accidentally let his guard down, the late-night conversations, the way he reached for my hand unconsciously while driving. My mind replayed those moments constantly after we faded apart, almost like my body was trying to emotionally negotiate. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe you gave up too soon. Maybe he just needed more time. That's another painful stage of healing nobody warns you about. The bargaining doesn't always happen out loud. Sometimes it happens quietly through memory selection. There was one night about 2 weeks after I emotionally stopped reaching for him where I almost texted him again. Not because anything dramatic happened. I was just lonely. Real lonely. Not romantic lonely. Human lonely. I had a difficult day. Work felt overwhelming. I came home emotionally exhausted, and suddenly all I wanted was familiarity. Not even solutions. Just him. Or maybe the version of safety I still associated with him sometimes. I typed, "Miss talking to you," then stared at the message for almost 10 minutes. And what scared me was how quickly my body started hoping again just from typing the words. Not even sending them. Typing them. That's how conditioned attachment can become. What are you actually missing? The question interrupted me mid-spiral. And honestly, I didn't fully know. Did I miss him specifically? Or did I miss emotional intensity? Hope? Potential? The temporary relief of reconnection? Sometimes those things get tangled together until you can't separate them anymore. I deleted the message eventually. Not because I stopped loving him instantly. Because I finally understood something important. Every time I reached for him emotionally, I restarted the cycle inside myself. Hope. Waiting. Overanalyzing. Disappointment. Relief. Confusion. Again. And my body was tired. Deeply tired. The strange thing about healing is that sometimes grief gets worse after you stop chasing. Because distraction disappears. When you're still trying to fix the relationship, your mind stays occupied with strategy and hope. But once you let go, reality enters the room fully. And reality can feel unbearably quiet at first. I cry in strange, unpredictable moments during that phase. Not dramatic breakdowns. Just sudden emotional ambushes. Washing dishes. Driving home at night. Folding laundry. One evening I started crying because I found one of his hoodies pushed into the back corner of my closet. And the embarrassing part, I picked it up and smelled it instinctively before I could stop myself. Like my body was searching for emotional evidence he still existed somewhere close. There was barely any scent left. That somehow made it worse. Because grief notices disappearing. I also started realizing how much of my identity had quietly reorganized around emotional survival inside the relationship. I had become hyper-aware, emotionally adaptive, constantly monitoring, constantly adjusting, and without the relationship consuming my attention every day. I suddenly had to face myself again. That part was uncomfortable, because underneath all the attachment was exhaustion I had been ignoring for a long time. There's a specific kind of loneliness that happens when you stop waiting for someone who was emotionally inconsistent. Not just missing them, missing the version of yourself that existed inside the hope. The hopeful version, the emotionally invested version, the version still believing consistency might arrive eventually. Letting go of him also meant letting go of the future I had secretly been building in my head. The trips we never took. The stable relationship I kept imagining underneath the inconsistency. The mornings I thought we might eventually grow into. You don't just grieve the person. You grieve the emotional fantasy too. And fantasies can be incredibly difficult to bury because they never had the chance to fully disappoint you in reality. Sometimes I worried I was becoming colder emotionally afterward. Less trusting. More guarded. There were moments tenderness itself started making me anxious because I associated closeness with the eventual withdrawal now. That scared me because part of healing involved realizing I wasn't leaving the relationship untouched. Relationships shape the nervous system, especially inconsistent ones, and I could feel myself changing. One night, I sat alone in my apartment with no music, no TV, nothing distracting me, and suddenly this thought arrived so quietly it almost felt gentle. You don't miss the anxiety. That stopped me, because it was true. I missed him. I missed the tenderness. I missed the connection. But I did not miss waking up afraid of emotional distance. I did not miss monitoring response times. I did not miss the exhaustion of trying to decode mixed signals constantly. My body missed closeness, but it didn't miss survival mood. That distinction mattered. He still thinks about you. Maybe you still think about him. Yes. So now what? I didn't know yet. Healing isn't a clean staircase upward. Sometimes it's just learning how not to emotionally reopen wounds every time loneliness visits. Sometimes it's resisting the urge to return to familiar pain, because unfamiliar peace still feels emotionally empty. And honestly, there were nights I almost went back simply because chaos felt more emotionally alive than calm. That's how powerful these dynamics become. But slowly, very slowly, something started changing. Not dramatically, not all at once. I just noticed I could go longer stretches without checking my phone compulsively. Longer stretches without replaying conversations. Longer stretches where my body felt present in my actual life again instead of emotionally trapped inside anticipation. The grief was still there. The love was still there too, honestly. But something else was beginning to appear underneath both of them. Space. And for the first time in a very long time, that space belonged to me. I don't think he noticed the change immediately. That's the strange thing about emotionally withdrawing from someone quietly. From the outside, it can look almost identical at first. You still reply, still smile, still ask how their day was. But internally, something starts closing. Not in a bitter way, not dramatically, just carefully. Like your body finally realizes it cannot survive endless emotional exposure without safety anymore. The first thing that changed was I stopped over-explaining myself. That sounds small, but it wasn't. Before, I used to narrate my emotions constantly trying to create understanding between us. If something hurt me, I'd explain it gently, then softer, then even softer after that. I became incredibly skilled at translating pain into emotionally digestible language. I'm not upset, I just feel a little disconnected lately. I understand you're overwhelmed, I just miss feeling close to you. I don't want pressure between us, I just want honesty. Everything became emotionally padded. Like I was trying to hand him my feelings without making them too heavy to hold. And honestly, that's exhausting after a while, especially when the other person still retreats anyway. So eventually I stopped explaining certain things altogether. Not to manipulate him, not to punish him. I was just tired of trying to verbally bridge emotional distance. The actions kept recreating. And I think he felt that shift before he fully understood it. Because emotionally avoidant people often become most aware of connection once access changes. Not always because they're malicious. Sometimes because predictability made them emotionally comfortable. He unconsciously trusted that I would keep reaching, keep explaining, keep emotionally holding the connection together. And for a long time, I did. I remember one conversation specifically. He had disappeared emotionally again for a couple days. Short replies, distant energy, barely present. Before, I would have tried to fix it. Asked questions. Pulled him closer emotionally. Tried to understand what was wrong. This time I didn't. Not because I suddenly became healed. Honestly, part of me still wanted to. But another quieter part of me was simply too exhausted to chase emotional clarity anymore. So when he finally texted, "Sorry, been in my head lately," I just replied, "I understand." That was it. No emotional reaching afterward. No invitation into deeper conversation. No hidden plea for reassurance. And I swear, I could feel his confusion through the screen. Because distance works differently once someone stops emotionally panicking underneath it. That's what changed. The desperation slowly started leaving my body. Not completely, not instantly, but enough. Enough that I stopped treating every withdrawal like an emergency. And once that happened, the dynamic shifted. I think people misunderstand what emotional detachment actually looks like. It's usually not icy, not dramatic, not cruel. Sometimes it's just the absence of pursuit, the absence of emotional overfunctioning. You stop monitoring, stop chasing, stop trying to emotionally rescue the connection every time it starts collapsing under its own inconsistency. And when one person stops carrying the emotional weight alone, the imbalance becomes visible very quickly. One night he called unexpectedly. Late. I almost didn't answer because I was already in bed reading. That sentence alone would have shocked the earlier version of me. There was a time I would have answered instantly no matter what I was doing. Heart racing. Emotionally available immediately. But this time I look at the screen for a few seconds first. Not strategically. I just didn't feel psychologically consumed anymore. That difference mattered. When I answered, his voice sounded softer than usual. Almost careful. We talked casually at first. Work. Random things. Surface level conversation. Then eventually there was this pause. And he asked, "Are you okay?" The question caught me off guard because I realized something strange. He sounded nervous. Not dramatically, just uncertain. Like he could feel something shifting emotionally and didn't fully understand it yet. And honestly, part of me wanted to comfort him immediately. That reflex was still there, but another part of me stayed quiet. Because for once I wasn't trying to manage his emotional experience before my own. "You seem different." There it was. That sentence. I remember staring into the dark while holding the phone against my ear, trying to figure out how to answer honestly without sounding cruel. Because the truth was, I was different. Not fully healed. Not fully detached. Just tired in a way that changed my behavior. Tired of waiting. Tired of translating inconsistency into hope. Tired of shrinking emotional needs to maintain proximity. And maybe most of all, tired of abandoning myself while calling it love. I think I'm just thinking more clearly lately. That's what I finally said. There was a long silence after that. And silence changes once two people stop pretending not to notice what's happening. I think he sensed he no longer had the same emotional access to me. Not because I stopped caring, because I stopped centering my emotional world around his unpredictability. That's a very different thing. There's a specific moment emotionally avoidant people often react to. It's not always when you cry, not always when you beg, not even when you leave loudly. Sometimes it's when your energy stops reaching for them entirely, when the emotional chasing disappears, because suddenly they can feel the absence of the connection you were previously maintaining almost by yourself. And I think that started happening between us. He became slightly more attentive afterward. More texts, longer conversations, small emotional check-ins he hadn't initiated consistently before. And this is the part people romanticize too much online. They'll say, "See, he realized your value." Maybe partially, but honestly, I think he mostly realized the emotional dynamic had changed. Human beings notice altered access, especially when they unconsciously relied on someone always being emotionally available to them. The strange thing was, months earlier, this version of him would have given me intense hope. I would have overanalyzed every small effort, every sign of emotional openness. But now, I still noticed. I still cared. And yet something inside me remained cautious. Because once your nervous system has been exhausted long enough, temporary closeness stops feeling fully convincing. Your body remembers cycles even while your heart wants to believe new behavior. One evening he sent me a long message out of nowhere, more emotionally honest than usual. He admitted he'd been distant, admitted he struggled with closeness sometimes, said he didn't know why he pulled away when things became emotionally real. Months earlier, that message would have emotionally consumed me for days. This time I just sat quietly after reading it. Not cold, not indifferent, just sad. Because awareness arriving late carries its own grief. He's trying. I know. Then why doesn't it feel the same anymore? Because exhaustion changes attachment. There comes a point where your body stops fully trusting intermittent tenderness, no matter how genuine it is. And honestly, I think that realization hurt him too. I remember seeing him in person again after some emotional distance had formed between us. And the chemistry was still there immediately. That part never disappeared cleanly. The familiar look in his eyes, the nervous softness underneath his usual emotional control, the way conversation still flowed naturally between us in certain moments. But underneath all of it, I could feel space now. Not punishment space, self-protective space. And I think he felt it too. Because there were moments he seemed almost more emotionally present than before. Listening harder, lingering longer, watching my reactions more carefully. Almost like he was trying to reconnect with something he previously assumed would always remain accessible. And the tragic thing is, part of me still loved him deeply during all of this. That's what makes emotional detachment so misunderstood. People think you stop caring first and then pull away. Sometimes you pull away because you care and your nervous system cannot survive the instability anymore. Love remains. Exhaustion just becomes louder eventually. There was one moment that still stays with me. We were saying goodbye after spending a few hours together, and for a second neither of us moved away immediately. Just standing there in that awkward emotional hesitation people fall into when both can feel something changing. And he looked at me differently. Not casually. Not distantly. Almost grieving already. Then he hugged me tighter than usual. And quietly said, I don't want this to disappear. That sentence broke something inside me a little. Because I believed him. I think he meant it. But meaning something emotionally and sustaining it behaviorally are different skills. And I had finally learned that the hard way. You still love him. Yes. Would you go back? That question haunted me for a while. Because emotionally, part of me always wanted to run back toward the tenderness. But another part finally understood something important. Love cannot be the only thing holding a relationship together. Not if peace disappears. Not if emotional safety disappears. Not if one person slowly loses themselves trying to maintain connection. And maybe that's the real shift that happened in me. I stopped asking, how do I keep him emotionally close? And started asking, what version of myself survives this relationship? That question changed everything. Even before the relationship fully ended. I think people expect grief to look dramatic. Crying on the floor. Sad music. Big emotional speeches. Obvious endings. Sometimes grief looks like answering emails while your chest quietly hurts. Sometimes it looks like functioning normally while internally feeling displaced from your own life. And sometimes the hardest grief isn't losing someone completely. It's grieving someone who is still technically alive somewhere. Still existing. Still waking up every morning. Just no longer emotionally woven into your daily existence the same way. That kind of grief is strange. There is no funeral for it. No ritual. No clear social language. Just absence slowly settling into ordinary life. Months after things started fading between us, I still thought about him at random moments. Not constantly anymore. That changed eventually. But unpredictably. And honestly, unpredictability made the grief harder in some ways. Because just when I thought I was finally emotionally stabilizing, something small would reopen everything. A song, a street, a phrase someone said in his tone of voice. Once I saw someone wearing the exact jacket he used to leave drape over my couch, and my stomach tightened so suddenly it almost embarrassed me. That's what nobody explains about attachment. The body remembers before the mind can prepare itself. There were days I genuinely felt okay. Good even. I'd laugh naturally again. Go hours without checking my phone compulsively. Feel present in conversations instead of emotionally fragmented. And then out of nowhere, grief would return like weather. Not because I wanted it to. It just arrived. I could be buying groceries or sitting in traffic and suddenly remember some tiny detail about him that my brain had apparently been storing quietly all along. The way he rubbed his jaw when stressed. The sleepy tone of his voice late at night. How he always reached for the cold side of the pillow automatically. Tiny human things. That's the problem. You don't just grieve relationships. You grieve patterns of existence. One night, I accidentally found an old video of us while clearing storage on my phone. And for a second, I couldn't breathe properly. Not because the video itself was dramatic. It was painfully ordinary. We were sitting in my kitchen laughing about something stupid while I cooked badly and he kept pretending to be offended by how much garlic I used. That was it. No romance. No declarations. Just ease. And somehow that hurt more than the intense memories. Because grief gets complicated when the relationship contained real tenderness alongside the instability. He hurt you. I know. So why are you crying over a kitchen video? Because humans don't emotionally process people in categories. The brain doesn't delete affection just because pain existed to. Both survive together for a while. That's what makes healing emotionally confusing. There were also moments anger returned unexpectedly. That surprised me. Because for a long time sadness dominated everything. But eventually, exhaustion started transforming into anger in quieter ways. Not rage, not revenge fantasies. Just this deep aching frustration over how much emotional energy I had spent trying to survive uncertainty. I'd suddenly remember nights I couldn't sleep because of his emotional withdrawal. Moments I minimized my needs to avoid pushing him away. How often I abandoned my own instincts trying to preserve closeness. And grief would shift shape instantly, from longing to resentment, then sometimes back again within the same hour. Healing is emotionally inconsistent too. Nobody tells you that part. You don't move cleanly from heartbreak into peace. You bounce between emotions constantly. Relief, loneliness, clarity, desire, anger, compassion, numbness, sometimes all in one afternoon. There was one specific night I remember vividly. I had gone almost an entire week without thinking about him intensely. That felt significant at the time. I remember feeling quietly proud of myself for how normal life was starting to feel again. Then around midnight, completely out of nowhere, I missed him so badly it physically hurt. No trigger, no message, nothing happened. I just suddenly wanted to hear his voice. And the intensity of that feeling scared me because it felt so immediate. Like grief had been waiting silently under the surface the entire time. I almost called him, actually picked up the phone, then sat there staring at his contact for several minutes while this internal argument started again. You miss him. Yes. Do you miss him? Or do you miss relief from missing him? That question changed something for me, because sometimes the urge to reconnect isn't about genuine compatibility anymore. Sometimes it's about temporarily escaping the discomfort of withdrawal. Attachment can feel chemically persuasive like that. I put the phone down eventually, then cried anyway. That was another frustrating part of healing. Sometimes you make the healthy choice and still feel awful afterward. Nobody really prepares you for that. You think growth should feel empowering immediately. Sometimes it just feels lonely. I also started noticing how much quieter my life had become emotionally. Not empty, just quieter. And weirdly, that quiet exposed how emotionally chaotic the relationship had actually been. Because once the constant anticipation disappeared, I realized how much energy I had spent monitoring emotional instability. The overthinking, the waiting, the emotional recovery after inconsistent interactions. My nervous system had been working overtime for months. Maybe years, honestly. One afternoon, I was sitting in a cafe working when I suddenly realized I felt relaxed. Not happy, not euphoric, relaxed, and the realization almost made me emotional. Because I couldn't remember the last time love had coexisted with genuine relaxation inside my body. That hit me hard. There is a kind of grief nobody talks about enough. Grieving the version of yourself that existed inside survival mode. Because even though she was exhausted, she was familiar. The hyper-vigilant version. The deeply attached version. The version constantly hoping for emotional consistency. Letting go of him also meant letting go of that identity slowly. And honestly, I didn't fully know who I was without emotional waiting for a while. I think that's why some people go back repeatedly. Not because they're weak. Because emotional chaos becomes psychologically familiar. Your body learns the rhythm of hope and disappointment until calm starts feeling emotionally foreign. So sometimes peace itself feels lonely at first. There were moments I still romanticized him too. I need to admit that honestly. Sometimes memory softened the reality unfairly. I'd replay his tenderness while temporarily forgetting the emotional exhaustion attached to it. The human brain does that sometimes after attachment breaks. It edits selectively, especially at night. Nights were always hardest. There's something about nighttime loneliness that makes old emotional connections feel larger than life again. I'd lie in bed remembering tiny details. The warmth of his hand on my back. The way he laughed when he was genuinely relaxed. How his voice sounded softer when he was half asleep. And for a few moments, grief would convince me I had lost something irreplaceable. Maybe I had, but I also lost myself trying to hold onto it. That truth mattered too. He still loves you. Maybe you still love him. In some ways, yes. Then why not try again? Because love was never the only issue. That took me a long time to fully accept. The problem wasn't absence of feeling. The problem was what the relationship turned me into emotionally. Anxious, hypervigilant, self-silencing, chronically waiting. I could not keep surviving inside that version of myself no matter how real the connection felt at times. One of the biggest shifts happened quietly. I stopped needing him to validate my pain. For a long time, I secretly wanted acknowledgement. Some deep conversation where he finally understood exactly what the inconsistency did to me emotionally. But eventually, I realized something painful. Closure doesn't always arrive through mutual understanding. Sometimes closure is simply the moment you stop requiring someone else to emotionally confirm what you already lived through. That realization felt lonely at first too, then freeing later. And honestly, I still thought about him sometimes. I probably would for a while. Certain people leave emotional fingerprints on your nervous system. That's real. But slowly the memories stopped controlling my entire emotional climate. They became moments instead of environments. I could miss him without collapsing into obsession afterward. Feel tenderness without reopening the relationship mentally every time. Remember the beauty without denying the damage. That balance took time. One evening, I walked home alone after dinner with friends and realized something subtle but important. I had spent the entire night fully present, not checking my phone secretly, not wondering if he texted, not emotionally drifting somewhere else mid-conversation, just present. And standing there under streetlights with cold air hitting my face, I suddenly felt grief and relief at the exact same time. Grief for what we couldn't sustain. Relief that I was finally returning to my own life again. And honestly, both emotions deserve to exist together. I used to think healing would feel more dramatic than this. I thought there would be some huge emotional breakthrough. One perfect morning where I woke up and suddenly didn't care anymore. Some cinematic moment where all the confusion finally dissolved into wisdom. That's not what happened. Healing, at least for me, was quieter, messier, almost unimpressive at first. It looked more like slowly becoming less willing to abandon myself. That was the real shift. Not becoming untouchable, not becoming emotionally cold, not ascending into some perfectly healed version of myself who never misses anyone again. Just coming back to my own body, my own needs, my own life. After spending so long emotionally living somewhere else, I remember one morning a few months later when I woke up and realized something strange. I hadn't checked my phone immediately. Not because I was forcing myself not to. Not because I was playing emotional games. I just forgot. And honestly, that tiny moment felt bigger than all the dramatic crying nights combined. Because healing often reveals itself quietly first. In small nervous system changes. The body loosening. The mind no longer scanning constantly. The absence of panic where panic used to live. I still thought about him sometimes. I need to say that honestly because people lie too much about healing online. Certain people do stay with you emotionally for a while. Certain connections alter your nervous system deeply enough that traces remain long after the relationship changes shape. But eventually the memories stopped feeling like emergencies. That was the difference. I could think about him without immediately spiraling into longing or self-abandonment afterward. Sometimes I'd remember something tender and smile sadly. Sometimes I'd remember something painful and feel compassion for the version of myself that tolerated it for so long. And sometimes I felt nothing dramatic at all, just recognition, like touching an old scar and realizing it no longer controls your entire body. One thing nobody explains properly is how unfamiliar healthy emotional space can feel after chaos. At first, peace felt boring to me. I hate admitting that, but it's true. No emotional highs, no desperate longing, no constant uncertainty creating adrenaline. Just calm, and calm almost made me anxious initially because my body had become so accustomed to emotional intensity. I remember sitting alone on a Sunday afternoon reading a book with sunlight coming through the window and suddenly realizing my nervous system is not bracing for anything right now. That felt foreign. Beautiful, but foreign. There were still lonely nights sometimes too. Healing didn't erase loneliness completely. Some evenings I still missed the intimacy, the familiarity, the way he knew small things about me without explanation. Human attachment doesn't disappear simply because you become self-aware. But now, when loneliness visited, I stopped treating it like instructions. That changed everything. Because before, every painful feeling immediately became reach for him, fix it, reconnect, restore closeness. Now, sometimes I just sat with the feeling, not gracefully either. Sometimes I paced around my apartment. Sometimes I cried unexpectedly. Sometimes I stared at old photos longer than I should have. But eventually I learned something important. Feelings pass more honestly when you stop building your identity around escaping them. He still crosses your mind. Yes. Do you still love him? I used to struggle with that question. Because people act like healing requires turning former love into hatred or indifference immediately. But honestly, I think part of me will always care about him in some quiet human way. Not enough to return to the emotional instability. Not enough to abandon myself again. But enough to acknowledge that what we shared affected me deeply. And I think maturity is realizing love alone doesn't automatically mean a relationship is sustainable. Sometimes do people care deeply about each other and still continuously wound each other emotionally. That's painful, but real. One evening I ran into someone who asked casually, "So, whatever happened with him?" And I remember freezing for a second because I genuinely didn't know how to summarize it anymore. How do you explain a relationship that was emotionally significant, but psychologically exhausting? Tender but unstable. Real but unsustainable. I just shrugged slightly and said, we couldn't meet each other consistently. And honestly, that was probably the most truthful answer. Not villainizing him. Not romanticizing us. Just reality. I think another huge part of healing was learning to trust my own emotional experience again. Because inconsistent relationships make you question yourself constantly. Am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Am I expecting too much? Am I the problem? You become disconnected from your own instincts after enough emotional confusion. So, returning to myself meant relearning how to listen internally without immediately dismissing what I felt. If something hurt me, I stopped explaining it away automatically. If someone's inconsistency created anxiety, I stopped pretending anxiety was chemistry. That distinction alone changed the way I experienced relationships afterward. There is a particular sadness in realizing how long you waited for someone else to create emotional safety you needed to start building within yourself. Not because independence solves everything. Not because people don't need love. We absolutely do. But I kept expecting consistency from someone emotionally inconsistent to finally repair the insecurity inside me. And that was too much responsibility to place on another human being, especially one struggling with his own emotional limitations. I also stopped romanticizing suffering eventually. That took time. For a long time, I confused emotional intensity with depth. The longing, the uncertainty, the obsession, the emotional highs and crushes. I thought, this must mean the connection is profound. But honestly, sometimes it just means your nervous system is dysregulated. That realization humbled me. One night, found myself driving home alone after dinner and suddenly remembered all those nights I used to drive around emotionally overwhelmed after interactions with him. Crying at red lights, replaying conversations, trying to decode distance. And I realized something quietly devastating. I don't live like that anymore. No one had rescued me from it. No magical closure arrived. He didn't suddenly transform emotionally overnight. I just slowly stopped participating in dynamics that required me to betray myself to maintain connection. That was healing, not perfection, just less self-betrayal. And honestly, I think part of him loved me the best he could at the time. I believe that. But the best someone can do and what is emotionally healthy for you are not always the same thing. That's another painful adult realization nobody prepares you for. You can deeply understand someone and still need distance from them. You can empathize with someone's wounds and still acknowledge the relationship is harming you. Compassion and boundaries can exist together. I didn't know that before. Toward the end of healing, something subtle changed in the way I viewed love itself. I stopped seeing love as something you prove by enduring emotional instability indefinitely. I stopped admiring my own over-functioning. Because honestly, constantly translating someone else's inconsistency into hope is exhausting. Real intimacy should not require this much emotional survival. I think the final shift happened when I stopped asking, why couldn't he choose me properly? And started asking, why was I so willing to wait endlessly for partial love? That question hurt more initially, but it led somewhere honest. Not self-blame, just self-awareness. Because waiting had become emotionally familiar to me long before him. The relationship simply exposed it. He changed your life. Yes, for better or worse. I think both. Some people break your heart open painfully enough that you finally meet yourself underneath all the attachment. And maybe that's what happened here. Not a perfect spiritual transformation. Not some glamorous awakening story. Just a woman becoming exhausted enough to finally stop abandoning herself. That's all. And honestly, that's already a massive thing. Now, when I think about him, I no longer feel the same desperate ache to be chosen. I mostly feel tenderness for both of us. Two emotionally imperfect people trying to love each other while carrying very different relationships to intimacy. We hurt each other. We cared about each other. We exhausted each other. We changed each other. All of those things are true. And maybe healing was never becoming impossible to hurt. Maybe it was simply this: learning how to remain connected to yourself even when someone you love cannot meet you fully where you are. Learning how to stop negotiating your worth found in another person's emotional availability. Learning that peace sometimes feels unfamiliar precisely because your body spent so long surviving chaos. And most importantly, learning that love should not require you to disappear inside the waiting.
Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message resonated with your soul, remember to subscribe and continue this journey with us here on Twin Flame Journey. And always remember, what is meant for your soul will always find its way back to you. Until next time, beautiful soul, Trust the journey.